The sources didn't exist, and artificial intelligence had invented them, and the report went out to the world anyway, published as fact. Of its 45 sources, 40 were AI hallucinations, and only 5 were actually real. The report was created by one of the 4 firms the entire world trusts to do one thing above all others: catch a collapse before it hurts the economy. So why are the largest firms responsible for this continually embroiled in fraud and controversy? Cheating on regulators' exams, forging documents to fool inspectors, signing off that banks were healthy only days before they collapsed, getting caught up in an international espionage allegation, covering for missing billions, holding up an entire government. This is the story of the Wild West of the Big 4 international accounting firms, and why no one can stop them.
Consulting firm KPMG is in a world of trouble.
The leaders of one of Australia's biggest accounting firms faced a hostile Senate committee demanding answers.
The firm to be full of bad apples.
144 pages of emails. The scale of the deception is now revealed.
Start with the worst of the 4, KPMG. Every few years, a government watchdog picks a list of audits at random and grades the work across all the firms. KPMG had been failing those checks, badly. They were told they would need to do better or there would be consequences. So what did they do? They stole the confidential report from the watchdog's office, and the leak came from inside. 2015, a man walks out of the watchdog and into KPMG. This is normal, by the way. The revolving door between the regulator and the firms it polices is so well worn they leave it propped open with an old Theranos machine. He just happens to be carrying documents he was never supposed to take with him. He is not the last. A second inspector crosses over, and she has the list. Which offices and which files are up for a surprise audit, before anyone else in America knows. They'd crossed over from the watchdog to KPMG, fed them the secret list of the exact audits about to be inspected, and allowed KPMG to slip back into those files and quietly scrub the failures out of the exact documents the inspectors are about to open. The system was there to ensure the failures of the Enron fraud never happened again, and KPMG had learned how to cheat the system. Then, when the scheme started to come to light, they didn't confess. They destroyed the evidence, destroyed records, and were caught anyway. $50 million to the SEC, criminal convictions in federal court. 2 of the inspectors went to prison. So did the KPMG partner in charge of audit quality. But that is not the part that should stop you, because while investigators were pulling that thread, they found something else running underneath the firm. A second crime, smaller, dumber, and far more revealing of a larger corporate culture of fraud that would span 3 continents. KPMG's own staff had been cheating on their training exams, passing answers around, rigging the scores, including the exams on ethics, on integrity. The firm the world pays to guarantee the truth could not pass basic honesty tests without cheating. The federal authority designed to enforce compliance laid out a punishment to ensure breaches wouldn't happen again. Then, in 2024, it happened again. That same American watchdog fined KPMG in the Netherlands $25 million, hundreds of professionals, 5 years of answer sharing on a different continent, and the Dutch firm never once re-examined its own procedures, even after watching the American one get caught. Not a scandal, a habit. And in Britain, KPMG had stopped stealing documents and started forging them. Britain. Carillion built the country, not a metaphor. Hospitals, schools, army barracks, rail lines, the roads people drove to work on. 420 public contracts worth billions of dollars. If you lived in Britain in 2017, you would have interacted with one of their buildings every single day without even knowing it. KPMG were the auditors for Carillion, signed the books, declared the business healthy. Then the British regulator came to inspect. And here's the thing to hold on to. They were not inspecting Carillion. They were inspecting KPMG. This is a routine quality review. An inspector sits down with the audit file and asks the simplest question in the profession. Show me how you came to these conclusions. But the file cannot answer, so KPMG forged the documents and gave it to the examiner. They wrote minutes for meetings after the fact and slid them into the file. They opened spreadsheets, edited them to show the right conclusion, dated them backwards, and handed them to a government inspector as though they had been sitting in that folder for years. In this corporate environment, it was not forgery. This was tidying. Now watch what the tidied file was hiding. January 2018. Carillion collapses. Not a slow decline. Not a restructuring. Overnight. Cranes stop mid-lift over half-built hospitals. Sites go silent with the machines still standing in them. 3,000 people lose their jobs immediately. Thousands more follow. And the pension scheme goes into the lifeboat with a hole in it the size of a small country's budget. Schools that were being built are left empty. Hospitals under construction became fenced-off concrete. The regulator handed KPMG the two largest fines in the history of British auditing. $14.4 million for lying to the inspectors, $21 million for the audit itself. Read that order again, because it matters. The deception got its own fine, separate from the failure. The cover-up was prosecuted as its own crime. The lead partner was thrown out of the profession for 10 years. Now count it up. America. They stole the test before it was given. Netherlands. They cheated on exams intended to test their integrity. Britain. They handed forged documents to regulators. 2 continents. 3 of the highest fines their regulators had ever issued. The same move each time, but it is not really about accounting at all. Because in South Africa, KPMG was about to take that same instinct, the manufacturing of a document that says whatever it needs to say, and weaponize it toward a human being in a game of international espionage. There is a word South Africans use for what happened to their country in those years, and it is not corruption. Corruption is too small. Corruption is a bribe, an envelope, a contract steered to a friend. They describe their government as captured. One family, the Guptas, not a party, not a cartel, a family, so close to the president that they could choose his ministers for him, steer contracts, informed of cabinet appointments before the cabinet were, of stacking the boards of state companies with their own people, then running the companies from the outside. A private family with a country in its pocket. But there was one obstacle, a man named Praveen Gordhan. He was the finance minister of the South African government, a reformer fighting against corruption, sitting on the national purse. And he would not bend. He would not sign. He blocked the Guptas over and over, the door that would not open. So the door had to go, not through democratic elections, through coercion. KPMG worked for the Guptas, paid by the Guptas, to audit 36 of their companies. KPMG produced a report about the South African Revenue Service, known as SARS, the tax service that this finance minister had built and run years earlier. The report described something hidden inside it, a secret unit, covert surveillance, a quote, rogue spy unit, functioning inside the South African state, on his watch, a spy ring run by the finance minister. Understand what that document was. It was not an audit. It was TNT. It had exactly what a political bomb needs. Not truth, credibility. And the credibility came from the name on the cover. Most people see politicians as shady, but everybody believes an auditor. And it worked precisely the way it was designed to work. The minister was investigated. He was charged. He was hunted through the newspapers for months. And when it was over, he was out of the finance ministry. The SAR's entire enforcement capacity had collapsed, and the Gupta family's largest obstacle was simply gone. Prosecutors eventually walked away. The case against him could not stand up. Neither, it turned out, could the report. In September 2017, KPMG withdrew it. Not a correction. Every finding, every conclusion, every recommendation withdrawn, set aside as though it had never been written at all. They apologized to the minister. They gave the money back. They pledged the fees they had earned from the Gupta family to charity. And in a single day, 8 of the firm's most senior people in South Africa were purged from their offices. The chief executive, the chairman, the chief operating officer, all of them gone. An accounting firm helped remove a nation's finance minister with a report it later withdrew in its entirety. And that is the thing about a signature. We have spent this entire video talking about it as a shield, something that protects you, sitting quietly at the bottom of a page, telling you the numbers are real. But it is not a shield. It is a symbol that can manipulate belief. Whatever it touches becomes true, which means it can also be used as a weapon, and a weapon can be aimed. Corruption was running across 3 continents, in a company whose sole purpose was to validate the truth, one of only 4 companies tasked internationally to do so. And if you think a 1 in 4 odds is bad, subscribe. Because as one scandal rose, the other 3 were embroiled in scandals of their own, and billions of dollars were about to go missing. Malaysia. A fund set up by the government with a simple promise: invest the nation's money and build the nation's future. Billions of dollars walked out of it instead, through shell companies, across 3 continents, into private hands, into property, into art, into a Hollywood film about a con man. KPMG audited that fund, and they signed it in 2010, 2011, 2012. Hold that, because it matters later. Then 2013 arrives, and there's a number in the accounts that will not go away. $2.3 billion, sitting in an investment overseas. And the auditors ask the most basic question in their profession: show us. Not a confrontation, not an accusation. Show us the asset. Confirm the money is where you say it is. The proof does not come. They ask in April, they ask through the summer, they ask into the autumn, past the deadline when the account should already have been signed. And every time, there is a reason the information cannot be produced. So KPMG does something you've not seen anyone do in this entire video. They refuse to sign. December 15th, 2013, a Sunday night. The head of KPMG in Malaysia is summoned to a private residence in Kuala Lumpur. He goes alone. Across the table are the people who run the fund, and sitting with them is the Prime Minister, Najib Razak. The meeting runs 45 minutes. He types the minutes himself. And before it ends, the Prime Minister tells him he wants those accounts signed by the 31st of December. The auditor says nothing. Years later, in a courtroom, a lawyer asks him what that had felt like. He says it felt like an instruction. He still doesn't sign. 2 weeks later, KPMG is removed as auditor of the fund, and Deloitte, another of the Big Four, signs the accounts that KPMG would not. Sit inside that for a second, because it is the most important 30 seconds of this story. The one time an auditor in this film does the job exactly as designed, holds the line under direct pressure from a head of state, and refuses, the punishment is immediate. They lose the client. A competitor picks up the work and signs it, and every firm in that industry watched it happen. You want to know how a culture like this gets built? It is not built by the rules. It is built by what happens to the person who follows them. And before you make KPMG the hero of this act, go back to what I told you to hold. They signed 2010. They signed 2011. They signed 2012. The money was already walking out the door during those years. They only refused when the paper in front of them became impossible to sign. Najib was convicted in 2020 over the 1MDB, then again in 2025 for abuse of power and 21 counts of money laundering. Now Germany. Wirecard was the country's proudest technology company, a payments giant worth more at its peak than Deutsche Bank. It was highlighted as proof Germany could build the future. Its auditor was EY, another of the Big Four. And for close to a decade, EY signed clean. Every year, clean. Journalists said the numbers were wrong. A reporter at the Financial Times kept publishing year after year that the money did not add up. So the German financial regulator investigated. Not Wirecard, the journalists. They banned short selling of the stock to protect it. They filed criminal complaints against the reporters, because the alternative meant the national champion was a fraud, and nobody in that country was ready to hold that thought. Eventually, Wirecard's own board, trying to end the noise for good, hired an outside firm to run a forensic investigation and clear the company's name. They hired KPMG. And KPMG came back and said they could not verify the money. 1.9 billion euros, a quarter of everything Wirecard claimed to own, supposedly parked in trust accounts in Asia. It was not misplaced. It was not stolen. It had never existed. It was a number typed in a file backing nothing. Wirecard, the German champion of the future, was dead within days. The chief executive was arrested. The chief operating officer got on a plane and has never been seen since, reportedly hiding in Russia as of July 2026. EY was fined by the German regulator and banned from taking on new listed audit clients for 2 years. And notice what actually cracked it open. Not the regulator. The regulator went after the journalists, not the auditor. The auditor signed for 10 years. It took one of these firms to find what another one of these firms had waved through for a decade. They only ever catch each other, and only once the money is already gone. Everything you've watched so far happened somewhere else. Netherlands, Malaysia, Germany, South Africa, Britain. Far enough away to file under other people's problems, other people's governments, other people's money. Now let's bring it home. Silicon Valley Bank, the bank the entire American technology industry ran its money through. KPMG signs the annual accounts, stamped with no material doubt about the bank's ability to continue. 14 days. Depositors pull tens of billions in a single day. Regulators seize the bank before the weekend. At the time, the second largest bank failure in American history. 14 days after the audit, bankrupt and gone. 5 days after signing Silicon Valley Bank, KPMG signed Signature Bank, clean. 11 days, seized, bankrupt, gone. And in that same week, KPMG signs First Republic Bank, failed by spring, sold off in a weekend, larger than Silicon Valley Bank. 1 auditor, 1 season, 3 banks, 3 clean bills, 3 bankruptcies. Now, the defense, and it is a real one. An auditor does not predict the future. The job is to say whether the accounts fairly present the business as it stood, not to forecast a bank run happening 3 weeks later. Fine. But an auditor is required to consider whether the business can survive the next 12 months. That is not an opinion. It is the job. They considered it. They wrote it down. They concluded the bank was fine. So here's the question this whole video has been walking toward. 3 of the largest bank failures in American history. 3 continents of forged and stolen documents. A finance minister removed. Billions missing right under their nose. Why are these firms still standing? Because of what happened the one time a regulator actually killed one. The Big 4 were the Big 5 once. Arthur Andersen was the oldest, 90 years old, founded by a man whose entire reputation was built on refusing a client, standing up to a railroad company that wanted him to sign something he would not sign, and losing the account for it. That was the story the firm told about itself for nearly a century. Then, Enron, the largest corporate collapse America had ever seen, and Andersen was the auditor. In the weeks before it broke, employees fed Enron documents into shredders, tons of paper, deleted emails by the thousands. Not a metaphor, actual shredders running for days. The government charged the firm itself with obstruction of justice. Not a partner, not an office, the firm. And it was convicted. That conviction was the end, instantly, because of one detail. A convicted felon cannot audit a public company in the United States. The verdict did not fine Andersen. It removed the firm's right to exist. Andersen surrendered its licenses. 85,000 people around the world lost their jobs. Almost none of them had ever touched Enron. Secretaries in Melbourne, senior accountants in Chicago who joined the year before. A 90-year-old firm was decapitated and its head mounted on a spike. And the message to the 4 that survived could not have been louder. Cross the line and we will end you. Except, 4 years later, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned that conviction, unanimously, 9-0, every justice. The instructions the jury had been given were so flawed that the verdict could not stand. Arthur Andersen was never lawfully found guilty of the crime that destroyed it, and there was nothing to give back, no firm to reinstate, no licenses to return. 85,000 careers were already over, the clients were already gone, the name was already radioactive. The Big 5 were already the Big 4, permanently, and the ruling changed nothing. Now think about what the 4 survivors actually learned from watching that happen, because it was not what anyone intended to teach them. They did not learn that fraud is fatal. Look at everything in this video. That lesson clearly did not take. They learned that the accusation is fatal, that the courtroom is where a firm goes to die. that the process itself is the execution, and that whether you did it, in the end, had remarkably little to do with the outcome. So go back and read the last 20 years again with that in mind. Every single thing in this film is that lesson, correctly applied. Get close to the regulator, closer than is comfortable, close enough to know which files they are opening. If the file is weak, fix the file before anyone sees it. If you are caught, never fight. Settle, pay, apologize, regret the conduct, sign the undertaking, take the fine, and stay out of the dock. None of it is a defense of the work. All of it is a defense of the name. And it has worked perfectly. 2002 was the last time this system executed one of these firms. In the 24 years since, every scandal you have just watched on 4 continents has ended the same way. A number, a statement of regret, and on Monday morning, back to work. The system proved once that it could kill, and then it got frightened of what it had done, and it never did it again. One thing left. Go back to where this started. The report with 40 sources created by AI hallucinations. That was not the end of this story. It is the newest version of it, and it is the one that reaches you. The 4 firms are now selling the world advice on how to govern artificial intelligence, how to control it, how to verify what it produces. KPMG published a report on safe AI use, in which 40 of 45 sources were fabricated by AI. EY retracted a study after 16 of its 27 citations turned out to be AI hallucinations. Deloitte refunded a government for a report built on references that were never written. When writing this story, it was 3 of the big 4, inside a single year. This week, GPT-0 and the FT published findings on 4 PwC Middle East reports, 2024-2026, containing fabricated citations, dead links, and unverifiable sources. GPT-0's own write-up says it has documented fabricated citations at each of the big 4 consulting firms: Deloitte, EY, KPMG, and now PwC. Same mechanism as everything you have just watched. New tool. Somebody produced a document that looked exactly like verified work. It had the formatting, it had the footnotes, it had the logo on the front, and nobody in the chain checked it because checking is slow and expensive, and the document already looked right. Now stop thinking about accountants, because that is the machine you are living inside. The reel with the statistic in bold white text, invented 90 seconds ago by somebody who needed the views. The headline built to make you angry enough to share it before you finish reading it. The post engineered to hold you on the app for another 11 minutes, because your attention is the product, and your outrage is how they harvest it. The thumbnail, promising something the video does not contain. None of it is checked. All of it looks right, and you are not going to check it either. Not because you are lazy, because you have already seen 100 posts, received 50 notifications, and were spammed by dozens of ads today, including this one. You have not verified a single thing in this video. You watched a channel tell you a story about firms you have never dealt with in countries most of you may have never been to, and somewhere in the last 15 minutes, did you decide to believe it? You never felt yourself decide. Every fact here is on the public record: court filings, regulator orders, sworn testimony. The sources are in the description. Go and check us. Almost nobody will, and that is the arrangement. Not a conspiracy, an arrangement. They produce something carrying the shape of verified truth. We agree not to look behind it, because looking is slow and expensive, and because the alternative is a thought nobody can carry through an ordinary Tuesday. That underneath the account, the pension, the headline, the number on the screen, there may be nobody checking at all. We did not get lied to. We got exactly what we were always going to accept. A watchdog that cannot be killed is not a watchdog. It is a Trojan horse, and time will tell what is hiding inside. Power isn't built on the truth. It's built on belief. And ruin begins the moment we can monetize one against the other. Every collapse runs the same playbook. We take them apart here, one at a time. Subscribe and get weekly case studies on the psychology of collapse.